Welcome back to Tutorial Tidbits. I'm Elizabeth St. Hilaire, and this week I'm going to show you this cool, grungy, vintage, antique, kind of oxidized mixed media ephemera background that I'm working on. I'm playing with tools, I'm messing around with things, I don't know what I'm doing, but the results so far have been pretty cool. So if you've got a minute, let's go check it out. Welcome back. This is a mixed media background with sort of an antiqued old look that I am building to paint florals on top of. And this is a multi-part lesson that is featured on my Patreon page. Every step is a separate lesson, and the tutorials are in depth with photos and really good videos. So I'm giving you a sneak peek into that. But if you want to learn how we built this background and vignetted the edges and created these papers that I'm going to show you gluing down today, you'll have to hop on over and check out my Patreon page. The information is in the upper right hand corner of your video. If you haven't ever explored my Patreon page, it's $25 a month for in-depth tutorial videos that publish every single week, sometimes more frequently, and the lessons are multi steps. So I take you through a whole project with multiple videos step by step from the start to the finish. And you also have access to everything that was previously archived on the Patreon page, including 2 full-length workshops and many, 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 many other projects. So hop on over to my Patreon page and check it out. Consider supporting me there. It will inspire and motivate you creatively, I promise. Okay, so this is the next step in the lesson for our mixed media antique background. And we're going to take these papers that we created with the gel plate, and we're going to glue them around the edges to give this another level, in addition to what we've already done, another level of sort of antique and grunge mixed media. So this is we're gonna find pieces and parts of this that we like, and we're gonna tear it, and we're gonna tear the paper off real close to the brown. I'm gonna take off as much of the white paper as you can, and sort of just tear it into a part that you like. And then we're gonna put the gel medium onto the surface. Oops. And then we're gonna just glue this down. And I'm using my Princeton Catalyst brush that you know I love for glue, because its rigid bristles will allow me to apply the pressure I need to make sure this is flat and smooth. And then when we press and apply a lot of pressure over the top, the tissue, the tracing paper is going to basically disappear, leaving us with this nice grungy edge. So we're gonna, I made a lot of this paper, and and then I found the pieces that I thought would work the best, and that's what I'm working with right now. So we're gonna keep it varied. So in some areas, just like the stamping that we did around the edges, we want to have some areas that are close with hardly anything, some that bump in. So we want this to sort of be a natural rough edge. And applying a lot of pressure and extra glue is what you need to do to get it to be translucent. So you can use real small pieces too. Like, I don't want to totally get rid of that postage mark, so I'm going to put that just like that. And then maybe I'll just add a little wee bit here so I don't lose the stamp. So this will be a part where I'm just using a little wee bit. And then when I come out over here, I can add a bigger piece because there's more space there. So good thing we made a lot of this, because some of it will work better than others. And it's always good to have choices. So I'm coming around the home stretch now, and I'm coming into the area that I made a little darker than the rest. And what you're going to find is that this tissue or tracing paper or lightweight rice paper, whatever you use to do this on, is going to be transparent the best in light to medium values. If you put it over really dark value, then that white of the paper is going to show a little bit more. So here in the darker area, it may show more than it does up in this nice lighter area. So what you're going to do with that, if that's the case, is you can come back in with the blending tool and the ink pad and stamp a little bit of that color on top of and around the edges to make this disappear a little bit more. You're definitely not going to need it in the light areas, but here in the dark you might. But it's dry. It's coming up pretty transparent. So if it bugs you, you can come back in with the stamp. And I will, once this dries, I'll show you that a little bit, and we'll put that effect on top. So you can see that in some areas I went real thin with it so that I could see this stamp, and over off of this edge I have very little, and then in some areas I'm coming in with a lot. So varying the shape of the edge is really important, so it looks more natural and organic that way. Now you could come in more from the edges generally, or less, you know, whatever you think about your composition, how much space you have, and you can sort of just experiment with it. It's up to you how much of this you want. And again, just like you could do the ink pad in a different color, you could do this whole palette. Like I'm doing it in an antique palette, but you could do it all in blues if you wanted to. You could do the whole thing in blues. So then that would mean you'd make your grunge paper in blue. You'd use an ink stamper in blue, and you could tint your papers with a blue wash. So let this be an inspiration for your creativity. You know, you don't always have to exactly follow what I'm doing, but I do like this neutral background, and because I'm going to make more layers back here, and then my flowers are going to be colorful. So I do like the fact that I'm sort of setting a neutral stage for them to stand out. Okay, so there's my last piece. I'm going to let this dry, and then I'll come back in with the stamper just to show you if there's any areas that aren't completely making me happy. So now the edges are dry, and I can see the translucent paper just a little bit. So just because I'm a perfectionist sometimes, I'm going to come back in with the stamper and the stamp pad, and I'm going to apply some of that sepia ink on top where I can see the white paper just a little bit, and this is going to tone it right back down to the background color. And that's what's nice about this stamp pad, is that it's also it's transparent, so it's just going to tint the white and sort of help it to disappear. It's not opaque, so it's not covering up everything that we just did. And you don't have to do it heavy, just hit it where you feel like you can see the paper a little bit, and that will help it blend all the way in and disappear. And it's mostly going to be in the dark areas that it shows up. A lot of time in the light areas, it doesn't show up at all. This is tracing paper that I used. If you use deli paper or really lightweight rice paper or different color combinations, you might have different results. So you just sort of have to play with it. So there you go. I love this. Now it looks all blended in. If you'd like to see more in depth on how I complete this background and then put art on it, check me out on my Patreon page. Click the I information link in the upper right-hand corner of your video screen. Happy Friday, and thank you for being here.